In today's crazy, mixed-up world where so many major corporations have turned on their customers, it's comforting to know that you can always count on your favorite children's book authors to continue pumping out quality books so all of your kids can have brighter futures. At least it's how it's supposed to be, but sadly, it is no longer the case for the Dev Pilkey fan club. Now, you might remember Pilkey as the author of Dogman and Captain Underpants and a few other books. Well, for the past 2 or so years, he's been working on a new series called Cat Kid Comic Club, and I'm sorry to say that it is one of the most poisonous and vulgar children's books I've ever had the misfortune of reading. I don't know who labeled it as a book for first graders, but I don't think he should be arrested, but he should have at least been fired for even suggesting such a preposterous idea. So today we're going to discuss and theorize about what could have possessed Pilkey to create such a book, and why everyone's still letting their kids read it. I'm Luke Arnott, and this is The Logray Show. Before we dive into Cat Kid Comic Club, I want to get something absolutely clear first. I do not in any way support the banning of books. Books are a very important part of how we express ourselves, and if somebody wants to write a book, they deserve to be able to share it with the world. But there needs to be a limit on how much is shared depending on the audience. If a book contains violent or disturbing content, it should not be allowed on children's bookshelves. It should only be accessible to a select age group, preferably consisting of those who are 18 or older. Now, this, of course, is common sense, but it's not the world we live in anymore. Now first, let me give you a little bit of backstory on just who Dev Pilkey is, cited directly from his Amazon homepage. Quote, "When Dev Pilkey was a kid, he was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. Dev was so disruptive in class that his teachers made him sit down the hallway every day. Luckily, Dev loved to draw and make up stories. He spent his time in the hallway creating his own original comic books, the very first adventures of Dogman and Captain Underpants. His stories are semi-autobiographical and explore universal themes that celebrate friendship, tolerance, and the triumph of the good-hearted." So that's Dev Pilkey. For some reason, there's no mention of Cat Kid Comic Club being one of his published works, so either he decided it wasn't notable enough to mention, or more likely this page was written before the series came out, and he never updated it. It doesn't matter. Pilkey is an internationally best-selling author, and these days he is best known for his work on Dogman. This series covers the epic adventures of a dog-headed cop who strives to keep his beloved city safe from the worst supervillains and criminals on the planet, whilst at the same time trying his best to suppress the urge to chase squirrels. Sounds pretty fun, right? Well, it is fun. And for quite some time, me and my family just couldn't get enough of these books. They were so fun. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you a bit more of a summary of the series to better prepare you for what's to come, and to give you an idea of just how we got here. For the first 2 books in the series, Dogman was the guy who did all the heroic stuff, exposing a corrupt mayor, saving the police chief from an evil robot who's trying to steal his job, all the makings of a hero. Then, in book 3, we were introduced to a side character named Little Petey. Little Petey was the result of Dogman's arch-nemesis, Petey, trying to clone himself. At first, Petey is frustrated about having Little Kid follow him around everywhere, especially when the previously mentioned Little Kid tries to mess up his evil plans, but over the course of a few books, he grows to like the kid, and they start to form a close relationship, not unlike a father and son. At this point in the series, Little Petey had become such a big character, he effectively took over the lead from Dogman. No pun intended. While Little Petey and his quote-unquote father hogged the spotlight, Dogman just went on little side quests, which only eventually tied in with the main story. He did get his chance to shine a few times, especially in Dogman Grime and Punishment, but for the most part, Little Petey was the star of the show. So, what do you do when a side character takes over a book series? You give the side character another series of his own. Which brings us to Cat Kid Comic Club, which, ironically, features almost nothing of Little Petey, instead revolving around the family of frogs that make up his comic club. And their legal guardian, Flippy the cybernetic fish. Long story. Anyway, the Cat Kid Comic Club books serve as catalogs for all of these frogs' comics, and for the most part, in terms of what the frogs decide to draw, there aren't a lot of surprises. They draw things like dinosaurs, superheroes, time travelers, all normal kid stuff. But then, after a while, they start drawing more grotesque things, like murder trials. One of the most inappropriate stories we've got here is called The Cute Little Fluffy Cloud of Death, by Puppy the Frog. Now, if your first reaction to that title was anything like mine, you're probably thinking, well, that's a pretty ridiculous idea, trying to make a cloud evil, this will be funny. Well, actually, the cloud's not evil, but it might as well be. The story is about a cloud who dies, okay, And he meets a bunch of nice little skeletons up in heaven who, after playing around for a bit, all chant in unison, "It's fun to be dead." That is a direct quote. "It's fun to be dead." That's actually what it says. So after Poppy the Frog is done reading the book, her legal guardian, reminder, it's Flippy the robot fish, pauses for a moment and then takes her aside to have a talk. Now I know I can't show the book to you guys, since this is an audio-only podcast, so here's the next best thing. I'm going to have segments of the book read aloud in a bunch of different voices to reflect the different characters. No rewording. This will be completely unabridged. So here's Poppy the Frog with her dad.
Did you like it, Daddy?
Poppy, may I speak with you in private?
Okay.
Is everything okay?
Yeah?
Are you depressed or anxious?
Not really.
Is anybody bullying you?
No.
Then why did you make that comic?
Oh, because I like skeletons and ghosts and...
But why was the little cloud dead?
I don't know. Lots of people are dead.
Now, hopefully this is obvious to all of you, but just in case it isn't, Flippy couldn't have handled the situation any better than he did. He handled it perfectly. He correctly identified that the comic Poppy had made was very disturbing and most unlike anything a kid should be making in their spare time. But he didn't call it out in front of everyone. Instead, he asked to speak with Poppy in private. And then, instead of jumping straight into the comic itself right away, he decided to ask Poppy how she's doing and if there's anything she's struggling with. He never raised his voice. He asked all the right questions. This is a parent who cares about his kids. Anyway, after Poppy says,
Lots of people are dead.
Flippy decides to cut the conversation short so he can go back and check in on all the other kids, who, right now, are being handed awards by Little Petey. The cute little fluffy cloud of death receives the award for Weirdest Comic, and the award for Most Violentest Comic goes to Super Fail, written by the frogs Katie, Kip, and Curly. This book serves as the origin story of the superhero from which it gets its name, and I kid you not, the book features an old lady slamming her car into a building labeled Sally's Nuclear Bomb Factory, which blows up the Earth. I'm not sure I want to know how these kids found out what a nuclear bomb is, but anyway, they win an award for their troubles. So after the award ceremony, all the kids start getting excited about what they should make next. Here's how that went.
Let's get started on the sequel.
Let's make a comic about poop wars.
And we've got an idea about evil zombies.
And I'm going to make a story about a dead airplane. I'll use felt, glue, and construction paper.
And I'm going to make Dennis the Toothbrush, Dinosaur Lawyer 2.
You should probably put some dinosaurs in it this time. And also maybe a plot. Something should happen this time. Just saying.
I've got it! Murder!
All right, that's enough!
Mommy, why did you stop reading? I want to hear how it ends.
Man, no wonder this book is a bestseller. The more I look at it, the more I'm reminded of Lord of the Flies. Amazon has marked this as a first grade level book. These kids are monsters! So the frogs go insane, and Flippy takes charge.
All right, kids, things are getting out of control. As usual, you kids are taking things too far. So from now on, I don't want anyone making comics about poo or death, and no more violence and mass destruction.
Can we write about diarrhea?
No.
Zombies?
No.
Murder?
No.
Well, I'm out of ideas.
Me too.
From now on, everyone's comics must be wholesome and uplifting, with good values and morals.
Alright, let's stop there. There's quite a lot to unpack here. First of all, this wasn't clear because there were no visuals, but when Flippy said,
Or death,
he was looking at Poppy in particular, and his angered expression was replaced with a sympathetic one. So even though Poppy says that nothing's wrong and she's not feeling depressed or anything, Flippy's still worried about her. Which in this case is 100% justifiable, because, again, she's drawing very disturbing things and she's not giving any real explanation for it.
Oh, he's just being overprotective.
No, he's not. Shut up. Next thing! Apparently, Flippy's idea of a good comic is one that is wholesome and uplifting, with good values and morals, which kind of sounds suspiciously like the last paragraph of Dev Pilkey's author page on Amazon. If you need a memory refresh, here it is again. Quote, his stories are semi-autobiographical and explore universal themes that celebrate friendship, tolerance, and the triumph of the good-hearted. That's a little weird. Again, he might have written that before he made Cat Kid Comic Club, but still weird. And speaking of Comic Club, good news! There is a lot more of the book left, and it only gets worse. We have now arrived at Chapter 5, The House Call, on page 91. Here, Flippy decides to take drastic action and call in a pair of medical professionals to help him out with the kids. And these guys are not medical professionals. Here's the clip. Warning, it's pretty long, so I've cut out some of the unimportant bits for you, but don't worry, the dialogue itself is still completely unchanged. Here we go.
Hurry, nurse lady. Flippy said it was an emergency.
It's probably nothing. He worries about those baby frogs too much.
Click dang dong.
Oh, thank heavens you're here.
What's the problem this time, Flippy?
It's my kids. I think they're disturbed. Look at these comics they made. They're filled with violence and potty humor and one of them is about death.
Oh no! We must operate at once!
Hold your horses, Doc. Let's read these comics first.
Good idea, nurse lady.
So long story short, they read the comics and they laugh themselves hoarse. Flippy is a little confused, so he approaches them.
Well, have you made a diagnosis yet?
I think you're overreacting again, Flippy.
Overreacting? What about the violence? What about the potty jokes? What about the reckless disregard for the sanctity of life and stuff?
Dude, that's normal. Adults make up stories about that stuff all the time, and we call them artists and geniuses and visionaries. Look at Shakespeare. It's all death and violence and fart jokes. If it's normal and healthy for grown-ups, then why not for kids? Are you seriously going to praise a grown-up and shame a child for the same darn thing? Take a chill pill, dude.
Maybe you're right.
I'm always right. Let's go, Doctor.
Bye, Flippy.
I'll try to be more chill.
You better.
Whoa, that might be the worst parenting advice I've ever heard from a real person or a character in a book. Okay, first of all, can you name one Shakespeare play that features a fart joke? Go. Any fart joke at all. Alright, time's up. Okay, the explanation that Nurse Lady gives is, for one thing, that's completely irrelevant. If it's normal and healthy for grown-ups, then why not for kids? Because they're kids! Murder is not a kid-friendly topic. Kids shouldn't joke about it. The potty humor, I can get behind. It's not like that's going to traumatize anybody. But murder? No. There's a reason you go to jail when you murder. There's a reason that you should go to jail if you murder. We don't really enforce that anymore, but that's a whole nother episode that I may or may not end up making. No, the idea that Flippy is overreacting here is ridiculous. He's facing a major problem, and the nurse lady is demanding that he just chill out and let his kids be psychos. It almost feels like Dev Pilkey's trying to send this message directly to the parents who read this story. If so, then that just brings us to a whole nother level of evil. Next chapter! It's the next comic club meeting, and Flippy has an apology to make.
Before you kids start your comic club today, I want to apologize. I'm sorry if I discouraged you yesterday. I shouldn't have let my tastes spoil everything. You kids should write stories that make you happy. Write things that make you laugh. And try not to worry about what others think. You'll never be able to please everyone anyway. There will always be haters, so just focus on what you love. Do that, and you'll never fail.
I'm finding it hard to express just how uncomfortable I am right now. Now, Flippy, you have nothing to apologize for. You did what any good parent would do in that situation. Kids should write stories that make them happy. Of course kids should write stories that make them happy. But don't let them joke about murder. Melvin the Frog jokes about murder in the very next comic. It's the toothbrush dinosaur lawyer one I mentioned earlier. Quote, "Help my son, Dennis. He's on trial for murder." I mean, they're dinosaurs, so I guess it could be argued that it's animal violence, but still. Anyway, Flippy praises them afterwards with no complaints whatsoever. And actually, that's kind of where the book stops being terrible. For the rest of it, the comics are, dare I say it, normal. We've got a trio of frog police officers who want to battle giant robots on other planets. We've even got a comic that isn't a comic, it's just a bunch of nature haikus. There is one more comic that's centered around potty humor, and the Death Cloud gets mentioned again on page 157, but at this point, small beans. So, that was Cat Kid Comic Club. And what a book it was. The good news is that it's rated 4.8 out of 5 stars on Amazon. And the reviews parents have been leaving are exemplary. Here's an excerpt from one left by Aaron Keynes. Quote, "On one level, it's the story of Cat Kid's determination to teach young frogs how to draw comic books. Children should giggle at the students' cute and funny comics. There are sandwiches that turn into monsters, toothbrush lawyers, and the ever-present children's theme of poop. But at another level, kids are introduced to lifelong lessons. It's okay to fail. It's okay to think about uncomfortable topics." Thought that was disturbing? Here's S. Hamilton's perspective. There's potty humor and some violence, and a part of me is not wanting to like it because of that, but you know what? I haven't seen my 8-year-old laugh that hard in a long time, and his laughing would make me laugh, and then my laughing would make him laugh harder, etc. I'm willing to be a little flexible with what I might think is somewhat inappropriate, because nothing bonds a mother and son like a little poop humor and light violence. Am I right? No, you're wrong. You are dead wrong. Let's wrap up the positive reviews with Amazon Man. I was a bit worried about this book because a few parents said it was inappropriate, so I read it with my 6-year-old. Guess what? I thought it was exactly right for kids this age. The joke is primarily that the grown-up is a bit of a worrier and is overprotective. This is actually my fave dev Pilkey book right now. I share a planet with this person. Luckily, there are a few people who actually know how to raise kids that have come forth trying to shed some light on the twisted nature of this book, so here's one of those reviews from Wendy. She gave 1 star. Quote, "After receiving this book for a birthday present, I am shocked and disappointed in the content of this book, and unfortunately, I will be throwing this book away and replacing it with something with content that is more age-appropriate. My son just turned 11 and struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts, so it's not helpful when his favorite author writes, 'It's fun to be dead.' The root of the author's message is unclear. Is it that any topic of writing as an elementary student is age-appropriate? Potty humor I can handle. A cloud of death, threats of murder, and bullying is too far. The daddy fish in this book is right. Writing for this age group should be wholesome, uplifting, with good values and morals. I am done with this author, and will be contacting the author and publisher." So again, that's one of the only negative reviews for this book. Everyone else is falling head over heels for it. Speaking of book, we've got more book! You thought Cat Kid Comma Club 1 was bad? Ha ha! Here's what the parents have to say about CKCC 2. Slightly modified for easier reading, and with ominous music to add to the effect. In a word, I am disgusted. Take this book off of Amazon. We'll never buy from this author again. It really isn't even humorous or fun. I can't figure out what the point of this book actually is. 1, there is no storyline. 2, the comics aren't funny. And 3, the writing is horrible. End of reviews. Well, I really gotta use that music more often, so anyway, let's get into the book itself. First of all, if there's anything good that can be said about this book, it's that the comics are way better than in book 1. But that's where the good news ends. And the main focus of this book is on Naomi the Frog and Melvin the Frog. As soon as the book starts, Naomi decides to start bullying Melvin for no reason. Flippy is notified and tells Naomi to cut it out, which she doesn't, so she just continues bullying Melvin for the next 70 pages. Then, Flippy decides to punish Melvin by asking him to draw a comic about how Naomi is seeing things. I don't think that's the right move here, but I'll let it slide this time, because we're about to get into some of the really nasty stuff. So, here's a conversation Melvin and Naomi have.
Hey, wait up! Where are you going?
Flea market?
Why?
I need some more inspirations for the comic I'm making.
You're supposed to be helping me with my comic.
Sorry, dude. You're on your own.
How am I supposed to write about you? I don't even know anything about you.
Not my problem.
They arrive at the flea market, and they meet a dog who offers Melvin a ball so he can play a bowling game, where for each can he knocks over with the ball, he gets a balloon. He does a terrible job, and this happens.
You did an amazing job!
I did?
You're a natural!
I am?
You deserve a reward for trying so hard!
I do?
Here you go, son.
Thanks.
Would you like to try again?
Hey, it's my turn. Let me try.
Watch out, everybody! This little girlie thinks she can...
Hey, that guy said you could have this. Hey, I wonder why I got 3 balloons. We only got 1. That doesn't seem fair.
Gee, you think?
Yeah, take one of mine. Now it's fair.
Wow, thanks, Melvin. You're my hero. This fixes everything.
And then she lets it go and walks away.
Hey, what'd you do that for?
That guy was a jerk.
I thought he was nice.
Yeah, to you. All he did was praise and encourage you. He never even spoke to me.
He didn't?
And you didn't even notice. Welcome to my world, Melvin. Girls have to work harder than boys, and we still get less. Less respect, less money, less freedom, less opportunities, and dopes like you never even notice.
This is, of course, stupid. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in America, women are not treated like slime. I mean, I know they're not allowed to vote or watch sports or go to movie theaters, and they do have to give up their seats on a bus if a man asks them to, but they're not treated like slime. Okay, joking aside, we don't live in a patriarchal society. That flea market dog, he's an absolute monster. You want to know why I've never met anybody like that before? It's because all those people are in jail. All of this violence and shouting, this is not how you inspire kids. If you must be feministic, you should at least lead with a positive outlook. You're not going to inspire any kids to take action if all you do is teach them that their lives stink. You gotta tell them about how great their lives could be. And again, the reality is that we don't live in a society where men rule the planet. But if you're going to tell that lie to kids, then why don't you at least try teaching them to look on the bright side of that lie? That it doesn't have to be that way. So anyway, Melvin eventually finishes writing that comic about Naomi, the one that Flippy asked for. And long story short, it's just a rap song about how sexism should be fought with violence. Here's Melvin's final message to the readers.
With your talent and my business savvy, we shall crush all those who dare to stand against us!
What have I done?
Can Melvin and Naomi remain besties? Will Flippy ever stop worrying? And who are the special guest stars dashing forth to investigate? Find out in our next epic adventure!
Absolutely garbage ending. Such a toxic message to both parents and kids. And again, this book has a 4.8 out of 5-star rating on Amazon. I think that by now you get the gist of what this series is like as a whole, so I won't go into the details of what kids 3 through 5 have to offer. I'll just say that they're all recommended for elementary schoolers. They all have 4.8 out of 5-star ratings on Amazon, and they are all terrible. Here are some of the 1-star reviews. Quote, I was shocked to see parts of the red section of the book when my kids informed me that this is talking about parents being violently killed and stabbed to death. Next review. Had grandson read to me before bed and frontal nudity was discussed in book. Disgusted I bought it for him. Next review. I understand that the author was trying to make a joke, but the phrase full frontal nudity is not something I want to have to explain to a 6-year-old. I'm done buying books from this author. Next review. Parents, please read this book first. The writer/publisher had to know it would cause controversy because it certainly doesn't add to the storyline. So, that stuff is what the parents are saying. Here's what CBS is saying. Quote, charming and funny with great lessons for kids.
Say no more! To the library!
Now, I want to make it clear that Dev Pilkey wasn't always like this. Up until somewhere around 2020-ish, his books were actually amazing, and I personally loved them, especially Dogman 5, Lord of the Flies. It's a Lord of the Flies parody. In that book, the message is, it doesn't matter how evil you might have been in the past, you can always decide, okay, I'm going to turn myself around now, and I'm going to go over to the light side. That doesn't mean you're going to skip the consequences of your actions, but it does mean you can turn over a new leaf. And see, that is a good message. You can't even tell it's the same author. I mean, the Dogman series is still going, and it hasn't gotten as bad as the Comic Club yet, but it's still fairly nasty, and I definitely wouldn't recommend buying the recent books. So, now we get to the burning question. How did we get here? Why are the vast majority of parents letting their kids read these books, and why are major news corporations continuing to praise them for it? Because there are some parents in the world that don't care how much filth their kids are getting exposed to. All they care about is that the kids like them. That's all they care about. They don't care about their education. They just want to be praised by their kids. And that's not a healthy way of raising a kid. You've got to have their best interests in mind. Children are the world's most important people. So that's why the parents are doing it. Why the corporations are doing it, why they are continuing to praise the parents for being bad parents, is they know that the books are bad, but they desperately want the kids to read it, because if the kids grow up raised on those ideals, they are much more likely to support the political views that the corporations have. It means more power to the corporations. And the corporations are not taking into account how much the line between adult content and kid content has been blurred over the past few years. So there's another reason. So, the moral of the story? Always read the 1-star reviews. They're there for a reason. The Logray Show is a Logray Studios original podcast produced exclusively for Spotify. If you want to check out more of my content, you can do so by going to lograystudios.com, where you'll be greeted with links to all of my other social media sites. If you want to comment about this podcast episode specifically, then I'd appreciate it if you could reach out to me using YouTube and not Spotify, because I already check fan mail from a bunch of sites, and I really don't want to add Spotify to that list. So, if you could reach out to me using YouTube or some other site, that would be great. Also, because of how infrequently I upload stuff in general, I wouldn't expect episode 2 of this podcast to come out for maybe a year, to be honest. Hopefully it comes out sooner, but I don't know. Who knows, maybe this will be the only episode I ever do. Hopefully not, but yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening. If so, again, please let me know with YouTube or some other social media site. This is Luke Arnott. Stay informed and always check your sources.